I haven't been here in 3 weeks. And I just want to say welcome to everyone that will join us. And thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that something we say today, I believe that it's going to be a good conversation. We have Janice Minor with us. She is a longtime friend, and I heard her telling a testimony a few weeks ago. What was it? Oh, it's been a minute.
Oh, yeah, it's been months, couple of months ago.
And I asked her to come on, and she agreed. So we're here today to talk about Janice's story. But Janice, before you tell your story, can you take a moment and just let us know about you, what you do, clinically wise, and all that good stuff?
Sure, sure. I am Janice Minor, and I am a health and wellness coach and a functional nutrition counselor. And what that means actually is that I help people get off the roller coaster of life and actually understand the connection between their physical body and their relationship with the Lord so that they can live a healthy and a well life. That's basically what I do. I have a community called the Healthy Habitat. It's in Facebook, and people can find me there. My website is www.cuhealthy.com. So to know a little bit more about what I do and clinically, professionally, what I do, you can take a look at those pages. Um, I belong to several brain organizations because of brain trauma that I've suffered. So I help people who are struggling with chronic pain manage that and get through that without drugs, without pharmaceutical drugs. And most of all, I am a Christian, a believer in the Lord, and a disciple of those who are lost and help to just reconcile people who are confused back to where they need to be with Jesus.
Amen. Well, thank you,
Mhm.
thank you for being here. As long as I've known you, you've been faithful. And you've been through, even just health wise, you've been through a lot of challenges, and you have overcome each and every one of them. And I just appreciate the fact that through it all, you kept moving, you kept going.
Yeah.
And and we want to talk a little bit about that today, because during the week I like to talk about some form of self-help, some form of self-care, and some form, something that could help us as people, or should I say, yeah, people
Mhm.
live a better life.
Okay.
And that's a
Okay.
very important part of it. I was listening at something, Ashley. I was walking by, Ashley was watching this documentary today, and it said, the lady said that 90% of people go to the doctor for stress
Hmm.
because they're stressed out. And I
Exactly.
and I said to her, I said, did she say 90 something
90?
percent? She's like, yes, she did. And I thought that that was kind of sad that
Hmm.
this world has taught us how to live not in peace, not in and part of it is that um, they don't have a relationship with
Hmm.
God, but not living in peace, not knowing that there's an avenue, a way out other than medication, like you said. Medication, I'm not knocking medication. I'm not
No,
coming
neither.
against medication, but
Nope.
you got to have another form to go along with that.
Right. That's right.
And I believe that that's what you've learned during the years, Janice. And I want
Exactly.
you to talk a little bit about that. Well,
Okay.
talk about it.
Okay. It's so funny. Leslie and I are friends, and she said, "Talk about that testimony you gave." It's like, which one? About my life, or about how the business got started, or the trauma with my children? What? And so she
Look,
started.
Janice has had it all.
So I think what she was talking about, what really actually touched home, is it was around Mother's Day, and I was just reflecting over my life's journey and where I had come in life. And it started back in childhood, from the time when we're told to be something or to do something or to be seen but not heard. And we start internalizing our own feelings, and I began to live an imaginary life. I read all these Harlequin love books and journals, so I thought I was gonna grow up and find my Prince Charming and go off and live in a castle somewhere.
That's right. But you gotta have the the horse,
Yes,
the white picket fence, and the prince on the horse.
yes, yes. And so, in search of that, I believe that's what I was doing. Being in search of that, I lost the true identity as to who Janice was. And I think a lot of us do that. It's not that there's anything so bad, but it unbalances us and it removes us from what or who we are supposed to be. The word tells us in Proverbs to train up a child in the way that they go. And uh, when they grow up, they won't depart from that. And to me, what I've learned in that with my own life is that if I was trained in the way that I was bending, I still would not have broken, but I would have been stronger and my root branches would have been wider and deeper. And I don't fault my parents for not doing it that way.
Right.
I was
They
brought
did
up,
what
spare
they
the
know to
rod,
do,
spare the,
right?
yes, spare the rod, spoil the child. So with everything, if you
Ah,
question anything, go get me some switches type of things. So it wasn't until I became a young woman and didn't really know how much of that had impacted my life choices, how I would move, how I would react in the business world, how I would react with people. And so I had to come to grips with I'm not the person myself when I'm quiet at home in my own time. That person was not the same person that I gave out to everybody else. And it wasn't until I actually decided I don't want to be the two sides of a coin, even though a coin has two sides. I want to be the one. And so I had to look at all those things in my life. I had to look through bad marriages and relationships with men that I really shouldn't have been involved in. I had to take a look at jobs that I took that were not the assignment that God had lined up for me. I had to take a look at how I pushed down the hurts when people would insult and hurt me. And I lost my voice in that I would not speak up for myself. Um, and how all of those things kind of framed me into a person that I was not. And
right.
so, we talk about the word and how the word frames us and how words are so important and so powerful. But when you're in your 20s, your 30s and 40s, sometimes you know that because of head knowledge, but you haven't really had a revelation of that rhema word of that. So I had to hit brick walls. And a lot of us have done that. We hit brick
Most of
walls,
us.
but
Most of
I was the type I would hit a brick wall and then go get some makeup and cover it up so nobody could see the scratches or the
right.
bruises.
Right.
And those internal bruises caused me to be shameful. It caused me to be shy. It caused me to be an introverted person. And I know, Leslie, you don't think I was ever introverted, probably. But I was. I was very, very quiet, and I was afraid to mingle. I was afraid that when I opened my mouth, what I was going to get back was not encouragement or love. I was going to get back ridicule or, uh, a nasty demeanor. So I, in my imaginary world, kind of escaped all of that, and I made some bad choices and settled in a place that I shouldn't have settled. I think so. When I was giving that testimony, I think I went back and I looked over my life. I thought about how, um, my parents wanted me so hard, so much to finish college at an early age. And because I was the oldest and there was sickness in my family, I left school to come back to help take care of my parents. And after that or during that time, I had a cousin that I thought was absolutely just stunning. She was beautiful, and
I
my
had a
whole
few
thing
of
is,
those.
and I was like, oh, Joyce, I admire you so much. I like the way she carried herself, the way she talked, and when she got married, oh man, she this. tall, handsome, debonair, good-looking man from Iowa came in and swept her off her feet. And at her wedding, in our cousin's backyard, all I could see was, that's what I want. That's the kind of life that I want. I wanted. And needless did I know that, everything that glitters isn't gold.
Right.
Before I knew it, Joyce and her husband were divorced, and it just, that kind of like shattered my world. And instead of talking about that to somebody and understanding what marriage and relationships and building that relationship and working and the turmoil that you need to go through, I didn't process any of that. And I grew up as being one of those obedient children, and whatever my mom said, I never disobeyed my mother, even though I know a huge amount of the things she told me to do was just not going to work for me. But
Mm,
I went that way because I wanted to please her. I love her. She is my hero, actually. She's my role model. And uh, so don't feel like those things that she said and led me on, because
right.
she did the best that she could do. And
Yeah.
these were
Yeah.
she was trying to live out her life through me. So the thing that I learned from that is not to try to live my life vicariously through my
Your
children's life.
children.
Let them be their children. And so within all of that, these are other things that I packed inside. And we're talking about removing stress in our lives. And stress comes from it just doesn't happen. We don't wake up one day and it's like, oh, we're stressful because we didn't get enough sleep, or, we're in a job that we have to produce and we don't really like. Stress is a mountain of things that build up on a slow steep.
That's
And it
true.
starts when we're young, because when we're young, we don't realize it as stress. And we don't realize that when we don't talk about these things, that they internally make us ill. They make us sick. We can either be physically sick or battered, or we could be mentally sick. And mostly when we become adults, before we actually play this movie back of our lives and see what mistakes that we made and the lessons that we should have learned and the lessons that we are learning from those things, we we don't understand that illnesses in different organs of our body are there because we have carried all of these untalked about feelings and relationships and uh, you know things that we don't understand, that we need to get out to get somebody else's opinion on it. Because a lot of times, and even sorrow that that we carry in our heart, a lot of times you talk to some people and they just want to tell you everything that they would do. And what maybe we really need is somebody to just listen and let you unload and unburden. And as you hear yourself think, you can come up with the answer, for yourself. And a lot of times in that segment of people that you are trying so hard to please or to, be a part of, the Lord may be telling you, but you can't hear him because you haven't tuned into that frequency, is that is going to bring more stress in your life. You really
Yeah.
need to let that go so your joy and your peace cup can overflow. So
Mhm.
when I was giving that little testimony about the things, I thought about a lot of things that I went through. I thought about abortions. I thought about bad marriages. I thought about uh, leaving school. I thought about buying things that I didn't need. I thought about uh, finances, where I could be in a better place had
Right.
not I was chasing, material things. I thought about health. I thought about putting things in my body when I was young that I knew better. But I thought, I've got plenty of life to live. I can correct this
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
However, time waits for no one,
That's
and
right.
you never know what life's journey, how it's going to carry you, and the things that you're going to be exposed to, and how those things can affect, your physical body.
That's
Uh,
true. Let me stop you for a minute and welcome everybody in. My name is Leslie Montgomery, and this is LKM Kingdom Living, Leslie's Lessons Learned. And all the way from the UK, I want to say hello, Pastor Jackie, and anyone else. We have those secret agents that come over from the UK that listens as well. And then when they're talking to Pastor Jackie, I'm like, they listen. But everyone that's on, we just want to say thank you. The topic today is, I don't know if you can call it a topic, but Janice's amazing story of how she overcome so many obstacles. And we know, Janice, you've had obstacles with your health. You had obstacles with so many things. You talked
Mhm.
about this morning how you were celebrating, you and your husband celebrated your anniversary not that long ago,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, happy anniversary. Tell
Thank you.
George I said happy belated anniversary as well. Your girls, and you know you stand by your family. I
Mhm.
mean, you stand by your family, and whatever
Yeah.
they go through, you go through with them. And
Hmm.
you've had many nights and seesaws of different things and different things that happened, but you overcame them all. And as you talk about the young, I think about one of the things you said was that you lost your voice. I didn't lose my voice, but what happened was someone said to me one day, "You always smiling. Why you always smiling?" I stopped smiling. I wouldn't smile anymore. So I had stopped smiling for a while. And then I felt like my family was a hypocrites because they would talk about one another. And then when they see each other, they'd be all happy and stuff. So I didn't want to hug people. I was like, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. And so I understand the different things that we go through as children, and all that plays a, we could be here all day. By the time I
Hmm.
finish, if I add to you and what I've gone through and all that,
Yes.
we could be here all day. But I just thought about that when you were saying how you lost your voice. And a part of that is intimidation. A part of
Hmm.
that is insecurity. And a lot of times we go through life grown, real grown, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we're in that space and we don't know how to come out. So you have learned how to come out.
Yes.
So I know you're talking about growing up and what you've gone through. Just
Hmm.
continue on.
Well, one of the things that I learned, I had to find, I said that, I think I said this earlier, I had to find my own sweet spot. And I think when we're coming out, we have to overcome. A lot of times we come out, but we haven't overcome that position in our life, that challenge in our life. And conversely, we fall back into that. It
Right.
could be a couple of years, it could be a different scenario, but they have so much likeness to each other that you find yourself doing or feeling the same way. So you become a prisoner to that particular thing that held you down for so long, like having your smile taken away, and me escaping to the place where I wouldn't say anything. I couldn't really be me. I was born in the country girl, liked to be in the grass barefoot. Um, and I did that too. I smiled all the time. I had this little giggle, and people would say, why are you doing that? That's so silly." And as I grew up, it was in my mind, I thought, instead of letting myself be naturally me, that's silly. That's what somebody immature does. That's somebody who, um, hold on a second. Maps, no. That's my watchdog. He saw the UPS man come to the door. But we think about those things, and before we act to be who we are, we refrain everything we say and everything we do so that we will look a certain way to a
That's right.
certain sector of eyes. But we have to learn that the most important thing in getting through and having victory in anything that holds you back is understanding how you yourself, not how anybody else can face it, but how you yourself can face it. Because there's many, many doors in the room of your life. And sometimes we will put everything in a room and walk down the corridor, which is straight, and don't want any of the doors to open. And when we do that, we live in a falsehood because we don't see the problem. We don't
Right.
see what we need to overcome. We don't see the hurt.
We
We don't
cover
see.
it up.
Yes, yes. And it's still there. You know, sometimes we get in our quiet space and we think about it and we say, okay, down the hall on the right, that's my pain from this relationship. And down the hall, a little further on the left, this is a sorrow of things that I had to let go. Or down the hall, a little further, again on the right, this is, uh, that mistake that I made that haunts me that I can't seem to forgive myself and
Right.
get over that. That's why it's so important, I believe, the community being based with the foundation of forgiveness, because forgiveness is everything. And
It is.
the way I have overcome all the challenges in my life is through learning how to forgive me and understanding that I'm okay. I love me if nobody else does.
Right. That's right.
But it took me a while to get there. And
That's right.
this when I say it runs parallel, it's so much
It
easier for us.
does.
It does. And it's so much easier for us who have a relationship with the Lord. Understanding from the beginning God had a perfect plan for us, even though, we were out want to do our thing and thinking that our plan was greater than his.
That's right.
So once you get knocked down, and drugged down, a rug, a room, or the road, and you get bruised and hurt enough, you want to come back to the master, just like the prodigal son. And when you think about that, you think about how he took all he had, went out and squandered, had a good life, just living it up. But when he found himself in this hawk pen of a mess, it was like, I could be a hired hand, I could be a servant at my dad's house and be better than this. And so he had rehearsed in his mind. I went back and read that over again not too long ago. How he had rehearsed in his mind what he was going to say. He was going to go and ask his father to let him be a hired servant. But as he was coming down the road, his dad ran to meet him, put his arms around him, loved him, accepted him, didn't
He
even
was
give him a
waiting on them.
chance. Exactly. Didn't give him a chance to say any of these things and restored him back to that position. And so we are restored back to the fullness of what God has for us when we first start loving ourselves. I think we started off a little bit talking about self love. And sometimes when you mention self love to people, because it's become a what do you call it? A word that is just thrown around so much in everything that we see, that we don't look deep enough to the meaning of self love. And there is nothing wrong or nothing prideful at all about self love, because when we are when we really want to understand and overcome in our journey, turn the we have to turn the real, not on the outside world, but on us. It's not on circumstances that have happened to us. It's not how we traveled or made mistakes, or how life has battered us. Those are just circumstances, but those are not the concrete things that make us box ourselves in. And so when we decide to overcome, it's easy for us to use the language and say, oh, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, or, I got joy and peace because, it comes from the Lord. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And we know what to say, and we can
We know
say,
what to say.
yes,
We know what to say,
we know what to say. And we
but we
can
never
say,
experience what we say.
exactly, exactly. Prime example. One of the things when in that little testimony I was giving was when I really learned the lesson about finances. When we were doing fine, and my husband had this great job, and I had money to give to whoever needed it, and we could travel and we could go places. Oh, the Lord is, prosperity is this, and God is good, and He'll open the door for you. And when that rug was snatched out from under us, and I didn't know if I was going to be in a trailer or on the street with my little bags, I really understood the law of prosperity. And I understood that those are the times that you have to actually really live by faith. And living by faith, like I was talking this morning, you have to have an accelerant. You can't just get out and live by faith. You have to have something that is going to ignite that mustard seed of faith that you are deposited with when you come into the family of God. You know, Hebrews 11:1 tells us that's the only way that we could please him. And I was, you know, I was great on faith until you gave us this month love as a theme. And I started searching that, reaching out and reading that. And, you know, he says that there's faith, hope, and love. And out of the three, love is the greatest. And it's like, well, wait a minute. If love is the greatest, how is the only way we're going to please God is through faith? So I started thinking about that. And it brought me back to how I have overcome through my testimonies, because you have to have an accelerant to light anything, or you have to have uh, a, an you have to have something that it initiates power in order to become powerful or forceful enough to lift yourself out of a circumstance. And love has the accelerant of belief and trust, and so does faith. Faith has the accelerant of belief and trust. If you can't believe, that's why the word of God says, trust only and doubt not. And if you can believe, all things are possible. So as you're believing, you have faith for it. It begins to grow and grow and grow. And you just know it's gonna work out. So when
But
I
suppose somebody
overcame,
doesn't know what to believe in. What do you say to believe in? What's the belief?
the belief is first in that you are created in the image and likeness of God. If you don't know anything else, you know that, okay, I didn't just get here by happenstance. I didn't just, Stork didn't drop me in the earth. And if you have some semblance of faith and you are not, or let's not say faith, let's say that you know that there's something greater out there than just this world didn't just collide and it, kaboom, and there is the earth and here we are. You're not an atheist, and you have had or have read something about spirituality somewhere. Then you have to take yourself, I feel, take yourself to that quiet place and beat yourself up. I mean, you got to look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm a liar, I'm a cheater,
Oh yeah, you got to
I'm a
face yourself.
whore, I'm a
That's
prostitute.
true.
Yes, I have had all these abortions and I got 4 or 5 marriages, whatever it is. And all of that is sin, but none is greater or none is bigger than the other. Sin is sin in God's eyes. Once you get all of that out and you vomit out the bad that you consider bad in your life, it's all out now. You have nowhere to go but up. You just got to clean yourself up and go. And I believe at that place where a lot of people call it rock bottom, I call it in my valley, in my pit. And I understood that even in a valley where you could look up and see, but you don't know how to get out, when you rest in the fact that fighting isn't gonna it's gonna make me sink. It's just like being in a lake, being swimming. You can go out, the wave and current can carry you out, and you can panic, and you can be a swimmer, but not a great swimmer, and you feel like the current is pushing you out in the deep, and you're fighting the water, and you're gonna go under. But if you can take a moment and take a deep breath and just relax, then you're going to just float up to the top. And either you might be able to reach a buoy or, hold on to something or see the shore and begin to swim back to safety without panic. But when we don't get it all out and understand that we are at the bottom, and if you're at the very bottom, the only place you can go up is up. If you want to go up, now you can sit there and stay on the bottom and rot.
So
But
I
if
think
you
that
want,
I think that the balance comes with the word, because if we don't
yes,
know the
yes,
word, we don't have anything to stand on. So I think that
exactly.
faith is the word. Faith comes from the word. And I know you know this. And when we stand on the word is that thing that brings us up out. You know, the word is what
Let
gives
me
them.
ask you this question, Leslie.
Mm,
What do you do with a person who don't know the word?
well,
We consider the word our Bible. And if I were to give somebody, a stranger, matter of fact, somebody I'm witnessing to now, and oh God, she debates everything that I say. And so when I say the word, she says, "Do you mean the Bible?" And I said,
The
"Yes,
word
the
is in the
word
Bible,
is
okay?
the Bible." The word. And what really I had to think about that. Sometimes people and circumstances in your life really causes you to go to that place where Rhema is revealed to you, because the word we know is alive, it's breathed, it's the breath of God, and it's the only thing that's living and the only thing that can change our circumstance and change us. But they don't know that yet. They don't
So
know
it's
that yet.
it's only through our example, how we
Hmm.
live. We have to be a testimony in the midst of it, of how
Hmm.
what it has done for us. We can't badger them and tell, oh, you got to read your word, you got to do this. No, we have to
Exactly.
live it. And then we
That's right.
become a magnet. And as we become a magnet, they're drawn to
Hmm.
what's in us, not us,
Yes.
but what's in us and
And
what's
that's right. That's so important. That's so important. And one of the things that has helped me overcome challenges in my life is to move out of my circle of comfort, which is always fellowshipping with my Christian friends. Because, like we said in the beginning, they always know what to say. We always know what to say. We give each other the word. We say that word, but we have not tested and tried that word. But when I mix, which I call my balance, is out, because every day when I get up, it's like, Lord, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to say? Who you want me to meet? And inevitably, every day I run across somebody who's not saved, or somebody who is saved but they're saved from hell, but that's all they're saved for. From, you can tell by their actions, you can hear what they say, they're just mean. They're just mean. And so you see that person, and my challenge now is to be with that person, so that the light of the glorious gospel that I pray is in my heart will be shown to them. And the way I get to talking or talk to them is through my testimony. And the word tells us that,
right.
you know, that's how we overcome. All of us have one. And I really believe that my testimony started back when I was a kid, and my father taught me about gardening, about planting. That's why I love to be in the dirt and in the soil.
And just I
I
just gotta I want y'all to know she has a beautiful garden. And even yeah, her garden, she got a beautiful garden. If you never seen a garden with flowers, her the things that she grow in the garden, and it's it's beautiful. They have flowers, they're colorful, just like the food she eats. So, yeah, she loves to be out there.
there was, and that's a lesson. And I think in giving a few tips out there is that when we find the things that we love, then revelation comes from that. And the word is logos. That's just like the written word on a page, whether it is in a book that we're reading about anything, or if it's the Bible. The word means logos. But Rhema is a translation. That is a revelation. That's where God takes us. That's what's in between the lines of what we read. And when you can get a hold of what's in between the lines, that's how you overcome the challenges in your life. That's how you free yourself. But I think as a kid, watching my dad and being with my dad and going to the seed store with him, and that's how I learned how to plant a seed in water and just watch it, burst and grow and germinate. And it's just something about the creation of God and what He's created and what He's put in us. And in us is a living tree. When I was studying functional medicine, there is a grouping of neurons and atoms that forms a cross in the inside of your
Right,
body. And when
right.
you look at it, and then there's another area of the millions and millions and billions of neutrons that forms a tree. And they're all in the inside of our body. And when we look at both of those things, we see the tree of life and we see the cross. It's like, man, there is so much that God, in the beginning, when He created us, so that we would overcome overcome anything that we go through in life. And I think when we get out of our familiar and we challenge ourselves because it's a challenge. I mean, who wants to be with somebody that's every other word is going to be, we have to bleep, 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 bleep. But when you're with them and they see that you don't say that, you don't talk like that, or if you cringe and you say, that just don't feel good to me. They actually, if you watch them, they'll start watching what they say. Oh, yeah, Miss Jess, I'm sorry. I know you don't talk like that. Wait a minute. Let me think. And then they'll come up with something else. That's been that's been my lasso to get people into the family and the body of Christ. And when I do it, I see people who have or who are trapped in those things that I have escaped. And when I escaped some of those things, Leslie, I mean, I was saved very, very young, but I got really, really, honestly, I'm just being real. I got so mad at God. I mean, I just went in and I look here. If your word says this, then why aren't you doing this? I'm doing this and you're not doing your part. I mean, I would just go on and on and on. And when I got it all out, it's like the Lord said, are you through? And then when I got it out, sometimes I was too upset. I was too angry to even pick up the word and let him speak to me because that's
Mm.
how he speaks to us. It's like, I don't want to hear what you got to say, so I didn't pick it up. But I would go outside in nature and he would begin to speak to me. And then he would start bringing back word that I've heard. And I say this all the time because growing up in the country and having, animals and cows and things, I watched a lot. And cows just chew and chew and chew and chew all day long, and they spit out the stuff, and all the stuff is running off their mouth, and then they move their head like this because they're swallowing it down, and they're chewing that again. Well, of course, God made them different. They don't have the same digestive system we have,
Right, right,
so
right,
they
right.
have to chew like that. But they chew their food so much, and the word is food. God tells us that the word is food to us. So if we were to chew that food and regurgitate it back up and then swallow that food back down again, like the example of the cow, then we will become stronger and we'll be able to overcome. We won't be angry with the Lord. We won't live in sorrow. We won't be crying and feeling pitiful. We won't be one way in the house with our family and a different way when
Right.
we're out with others. Because I'm going to be real honest. I was like three people. And to my family, I was one way. To the church, I was one way. At my job, I was one way. And when I was by myself, I was somebody else. And that was hard. It was hard. And I was colliding and I was angry all the time. And if I'm honest, anger is what caused my brokenness in my body each and every time.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
the lesson that God wanted me to learn was to how to handle anger because I'm hot headed, how to become cool and how to think about things and not speak before I think and not let things anger me so much. The very first accident I had, because I've never really been sick. I was sick when I was little as a child, and I was about between 5 and 6 years old, and God instantaneously healed me by listening to a radio broadcast with A. Allen. I mean, like a little child. I mean, that there was my faith. I was so tired of being sick, so tired of being sick. And the worst thing was that my grandmother would take sardines out of a sardine can and castor oil, wrapped it all around my neck with a hot towel because I had a problem with tonsillitis, and back in the late 40s, early 50s, they didn't really want to do this surgery. They thought you would grow out of it, but somehow because I had gone untreated for so long, the nodules and everything had intertwined with the capillaries, and they thought that I would bleed to death if they did it. So my parents felt like the chances that I would not survive, they just wouldn't do it. But twice a year I would get so sick, and they would pick me up, put me in an ice bath to cool the fever down. I was just so tired of it. All the other kids are going out playing, and it's 2 times a year. I'm like a month sick with this, and so
You said
every
two
Saturday
times a
we're under the
year.
2 times a year I was sick like this, and I was, and so much so it was affecting my heart and the the doctors had told my parents if they couldn't keep my fever down lower than 107, that I was going to have brain damage because it lasted for so long.
Wow.
So I wanted to be whole. I wanted to do anything to get the sardine stuff off my neck, actually, as a little child. And so every Saturday we would gather underneath this radio to hear A. Allen preach on healing. And I just felt like if I reached out and touched that radio, he was always talking about point of contact, a point of contact. And I remember I was laying on the floor and I rolled over to touch the
Ooh,
radio
Jesus.
and I was instantly healed. My
Healed.
fever broke just like that. So when you have an encounter with the Lord and something like that, nobody can take it away from you. So no matter what has happened to me in my life, I believe in health and healing. And I know no matter what happens to me, I know I'm going to be whole. I know I'm going to be healed. And so the enemy couldn't take me down with a sickness or disease. I'd fight that off really quick. But I kept having accidents after accidents, being broken, being broken, being broken. And it wasn't until the last accident when all this fluid built up behind my hippocampus and I thought that I was going to be institutionalized or in a nursing home, I actually decided I have to understand why I keep having these types of accidents. And so there's things in other people's lives that are happening 3, 4, 5, 6 times in different segments, maybe 10 years apart or 10, 15 years apart, but it's the same thing that keeps happening. It could be, a couple of months apart, but it's the same thing that keeps happening. My tip would be to sit back, take a deep breath, get a pen and a paper, and start writing down what you're doing when these things happen. How do you feel when these things happen? What's your reaction when these things happen? Do you reach for your keys and run out and go somewhere? Do you go somewhere and get drunk? Do you go call up a friend and have a real bad conversation about it? Or are you mad and you throw things and break things? What is your reactions? What do you do? A lot of times, because of our faith, we don't do those things, but we cry and we pity ourselves, and our prayer doesn't become effectual because we're crying and giving God this woe is me" prayer, instead of realizing that we are victorious and giving Him joy and praise, in it all. So it's those are the tips that I would give. Get a notebook, write it all down. Write it all down the moment you're feeling it, and then look at it, read it, and the next time it happens, see if it's parallel, if it's the same thing, or if there's any changes, in that. And when you do overcome, thank God you come out of that situation. Don't go back and visit it. If you can't go back and visit it without feeling joy, then don't go back and visit it. If you go back and visit it and you start reliving the whole thing all over again, then you haven't let go of it. You haven't been delivered from it. But when you can go back and you can look at it and you can visit the ashes and you see it, that's when He takes your ashes and your sackclothes and give you a garment of praise, and you can be like David and just dance around the house, down the street,
Right.
everywhere you go, with
Yeah.
overcome. And that's where we need to be, in the place of overcome.
Mhm. Okay. And yeah, that's good. I didn't. Well, it's very important that we understand that he said we do overcome by the blood of the lamb and our testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I think that we need to understand as people is that there are choices, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
You have a choice that you want to stay angry, you want to stay mad, and or you want to get better. Now, I remember when I before I got diagnosed with high blood pressure, and I was going through a lot of stuff, and I was working. They told me don't. I mean, the doctor was telling me what I need to do. I was doing it, but I wouldn't say that I was consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up on blood pressure medicine, but it was from the stress of what I was going through. And at that time, it was a lot of trauma, what I was going through. And I allowed it to consume me. And that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. that
Hmm.
consumption. If it's not healthy consumption, it doesn't have anywhere to go, so it's going to attack your body.
Exactly. Exactly. And you said a key thing, Leslie. You said that you weren't consistent with it. Now, in our lives, in our spiritual lives, we know in order to grow, we got to be consistent. We'll be consistent in our prayer. We'll be consistent in our reading of the word. We'll be consistent in the ministry organizations that we're in. So why is it do we feel that we can be consistent in those areas, but we let the other area, which is our mind and our body, just we anytime we feel like, okay, I'm too far off, now I'll do it, but we don't have consistency
Right.
in that.
I think that consistency is all around. It's not just in one area. That consistency comes from us having a balance. We have to have
Exact
a balanced life. You
exact
talk about with health how you got to be balanced. Well, we
hmm
need to have balanced lives, and most people are not taught how to live a balanced life. Most people have no idea how to make that happen. So because they don't know how to make that happen, they're in and out. They allow what they're going through to consume them, and
hmm
then they don't know what to do. So
that takes
they,
us back to the thing of having that self-examination, because I talk a lot about the trichology of a person, meaning the three entities, just like the Trinity of our Lord. There is God the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Those three, and they are not separate. They're separate entities, but they are one. And we are three. We are spirit, we are
right.
mind, and we are body. And when we segment our body and our mind from the spirit, nothing it will become balanced. We'll try to be balanced. We'll think we're balanced, but
Mm.
we're not really balanced. And the spirit never leaves the mind and the body, it stays permanent. Once we come into that relationship with the Lord, that spirit is there, it's not moving. But our mind, which is trying to influence what God is
That's where
telling.
the torment come in.
Exactly. And then our mind will tell our body, well, you don't have to do this. You don't have to participate. You're just the carrier. We just move around, and you don't have to do this. And so then if our bodies start listening to our mind, then we don't take care of it. So now the Spirit of God cannot flow through that body and affect the word and affect people and affect change in our lives and give us that long life that he's promised us. So we have to bring them all together all the time, all the time.
So, yeah, and what people have to understand, especially in the body of Christ, or body of Yeshua, is that it's not that you get the spirit when you accept the spirit is in you, but you have to accept to activate it. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And we're it's birthed in us. When we're birthed, it's there, but we have to activate it because you have a will, free
Yeah,
will.
that's it. That's
And it's
it.
the same thing with the balance of our lives. We have free wills. Either we're going to do the will of the Father or we're going to do our own will.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if
Exactly.
we're not taught the difference, then we end up living our own will because we don't know how to balance the two or to make them come into agreement, I like to
Yes.
say.
Yes. Come into agreement. That's it.
Yeah, yep, yep. So, do,
Powerful.
do you have any last words? Thank you so much. The hour is here.
Oh, okay. Every time we get together, the time just flies and flies and flies. My last words are what I like to say is that in order to overcome your challenges and uh, master those difficulties in your life, you have to first know God. You have to second discover. Well, not second. You know God first, and then you find freedom, and then you discover your purpose, and then you go out and you affect a change, and the effective change starts within yourself. So that's what I would say, and that's how I actually had to um, to master and overcome all the challenges that I've had in my life. Because when I look back over my life, I shouldn't be walking. I shouldn't even be alive. I shouldn't be alive.
Right.
And to know that I can move and I can breathe and I don't smell or look like the smoke that I have lived through or been through. That's a testimony only to the glory of God. And I thank him for it every single day. And
Amen.
I and going through that, we have to realize in it's Psalms, I think it's Psalms 1 that says, um, we shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, and we will bring forth um,
Spring up as
bring up
living water.
living water. That's it. That's it. And so when we understand that, I think we see ourselves like that. Remember when we were children, going through grade school or preschool, there was an exercise we used to do, because they've taken physical education, I think, out of school now. But we used to have to stand up, and I remember my teacher saying, "Stand up straight and tall. Put your hands out like a tree." So in everything that we say and do, we represent plant life. We
Life.
represent growth. We represent roots. And that's where the rhema revelation of God comes in, that leads us that way. So I appreciate this, Leslie. Thank you so much for
Thank you
allowing me to be
for
on.
coming. Even when you talked about the tree and the two
The
parts, hey
cross.
Tosh, and there's still a core that makes everything
Uh huh.
function, you know, and that
Exactly.
functioning is
Exactly.
is just like in the center of our life is the Father, and in that
Mm-hmm.
is it's connected, and that it's just like you said, the tree. And you
Yes.
think about a tree have branches all over because it's steady growing. And if
Mm-hmm.
you ever had a fruit tree, in the fruit
Mm-hmm.
tree, you got to prune it, you gotta keep it.
Mm-hmm.
So at the certain time after the season is over, you gotta make sure it's ready for the next season. And if you don't, you have a whole lot of
Mm-hmm.
bad fruit, you know.
Yes.
And when it
Yes.
drops
Even
the
now, we have a
fruit,
whole lot of leaves.
yeah,
And my husband was saying, "I just raked up all these leaves. Look at all these leaves. Why does the tree have to shed leaves like this?" I said, there's a process that God has in nature, and that same process is within
it's in
us.
us.
That tree with all of those leaves that are beautiful in the spring, summer, in the fall, they have to shed their leaves because the root system now is drawing all the nutrients from the leaves so that the branches won't would have they'll be substantial, and it goes all the way down to the roots
Yes,
in the ground, so that in the spring that it can spring up, it can grow, it
that's
can
right.
it can flourish again. And that's
That's
what,
when life
when I look
is.
at that, it is.
Yeah,
Hopefully I'm going to look up in one of my books and get that picture of how the formation of the cells make that cross in the inside of our body,
yeah,
and how that tree overshadows it. It's the tree and the cross is there, and that's who we are. That's
yeah,
who we are. And I think when we see that and we're reminded of that, then we overcome our challenges, knowing that we overcome, like we already said, by the word of the Lord and the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb.
yeah.
And so we should always tell it. Don't keep it to ourselves. Anybody who's listening, God has given you a testimony, and it is our assignment to go out and give it and spread it.
Well, thank you. And thank you,
So,
everyone, for being here today. This was a good topic. Thank you, Janice, and you're busy, busy, busy. And we say we're not going to use that word anymore.
my
In your
engaged awareness. We're not
in
busy
your
people.
in your movement through the days, when you look at your calendar, thank you for fitting me in. Thank you for fitting me in. And I want to thank everybody. Posh from Texas is on. Alfreda from Philly is on. Pastor Jackie from the UK is on. California was on. And I just thank everybody from wherever you are for just taking the time out of your busy schedule to hear what we have to say. And once again, I want you to know that you are worth living. And it's important that you understand that. and that you give yourself, as Janice said, I forgot the word now, it just slipped my mind, but give yourself some grace. That's what it is. Give yourself some grace and understand that you have a creator that has made you. And if you sit at his feet, he'll reveal his love to you. So until we meet again on Sunday, I have Rick Charles and Mike Johnson on, and they're going to be talking about furthering their how much they have grown and forgiven their parents, and not so much their parents because they're talking about their fathers and the role that their fathers played in their life or didn't play. So come and join us at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you and have the rest of you an amazing day. And we love you. Thank you.